Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The most respectable Visizani is my public speaking lecturer who has given me this charge in terms of delivering a presentations of my vinyl paper project. And hi everyone who watching and listening this video. Hopefully you can get informations from my presentation. So in this previous occasion, I would like to deliver about my vinyl paper project that has a title designing a prototype of storybook entitled Putri Pinang Masa for junior high school students. But before we are going to forward this discussion, let me introduce myself first. So my name is Rahma Desi Kurniati. I'm from 6DB class in English department at State Polytechnic of Sriwijaya. I'm a student advisor by Mrs. Enda and also Mr. Zulkifli. So without further ado, let's get started the discussion. So in this previous occasion, I would like to deliver 5 main topics. Starting from the first one is about the background. The second one is about the literature review. The third one is about research methodology that I use in my research. The fourth one is about findings and discussions. And the last one is about conclusions and suggestions. Let me start with the background. I took this folklore as my vinyl paper project because Indonesia is a large country that has so many various kinds of tribes, cultures, and customs. Believe it or not, for each province in Indonesia, they have their own folklore. For example, from West Java, they have Tangkuban Perahu. And then from West Sumatra, they have the story of Malin Kundang. And then from Central Java, they have the story of Timun Mas. And from Sumatra itself, they have like the story of Kamara Island. And from North Sumatra, they have Lake Toba. Not only from each province in Indonesia. Indonesia have 34 provinces. And from each province, it can have more than one folklore. For example, in Sumatra, we have so many folklore like Bujang Kurip from Lubuk Linggau, Sipahit Lidah from Lahad, and then Silapland from Kayu Agung, Putri Pinang Masa from Ogan Ilir, and so on. That means Indonesia have so many kinds of folklore that should be kept exist in nowadays. How to keep this folklore still exist in now era? So I'm as a person who took this folklore, make the folklore become a book, because book is easier to get, easier to product. And this book can be used as a English learning material for junior high school students. And I took the story of Putri Pinang Masa from Ogan Ilir as the storybook that can be exist and will be announced the story. Then we are moving to the literature review. Designing, Sarwono and Lubis mentioned that he said that designing is simulating what we want to make or to do many times as many be necessary to be the vinyl as perfect as possible. Then storybook. According to Purianto 2008, storybook is a story that contains educations. The plot is strict and not complicated, using illustration. And then prototype. According to Hidayat 2012, he said that a prototype is an assessment of a product through one or more dimensions of concern. Then talk about folklore itself. Rashid 2015 mentioned that folklore is story that develop in a particular area according to the characteristic of local customs in the form of pores. Now we are moving to the research methodology that I use in my research. So here I use the research methodology that modified by Sukma Dinata. So the steps are starting from the preliminary study, and preliminary study have 3 steps, starting from literature review, the second one field survey, and then make the model or product draft. Second step is product development. The steps of product development are like starting from limited testing, and the second one is wider testing. Then the last step is final product testing. It's about final testing and also dissemination. So in limited testing, I interviewed some experts in her expertise, like from the historian of the story of Putri Pinamasa. I'm interviewed with Mr. Erwin Shah to make sure if the story that I've made is not far from the original story. Second one is I asked Mr. Yusri SPD MPD as my linguist expert to look for some grammatical error or something typo or something wrong with the structure in my script. And then the last one is he is a design expert. He is Mr. Iqbal. He is worker in designer company. I asked his suggestions about the design that I've made. Here is that's about my product or model draft. Now, not only till there, continuing my research in wider testing. So in wider testing, I interviewed Mrs. Rabiatul as a English teacher at junior high school number 14 in Palembang, and also 3 junior high school students from different schools. I asked their suggestions and critical to my final draft. So I asked their opinion about my storybook. Now we are moving to the discussion. In this discussion, the writer has designed a prototype of storybook entitled Putri Pinamasa. The prototype of storybook had 24 pages and 1,491 words, illustrations, and then questions about the story in the last page. The writer followed and considered the storybook should contain things that mentioned by expert in the literature review. But now we are in the last part. It's about the conclusions and suggestion. The conclusion is a prototype of storybook is to preserve the culture, introduce the folklore of Putri Pinamasa from Ogan Ilir, and made the storybook as reading English material for junior high school students. Making a storybook can be preserved of the continuity of folklore as a nation's culture. Storybook with picture increase the reading interest because contains not only the story script but also the illustrations of the story itself. Can make the reader enjoy the reading the book. And the suggestions, I suggest the culture department in South Sumatra to pay attention more with the folklore in South Sumatra. The writer hopes that the storybook can help junior high school students in introducing the folklore and then improving their reading skills, like to reading English material. And then the writer hopes that every school in South Sumatra, especially junior high school, will always give lesson and culture introduction, especially folklore in Indonesia. Okay, that's all about my presentations of my final report. If there have some mistakes that's come from me, if you have some suggestions, just feel free to give it to me. And that's all. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and thank you.